All right, thank you and welcome to the meeting of the Harwich Conservation Commission for June 2nd, 2021. I'm sorry about being a little bit late. This is a meeting being held by remote participation, and I'm going to open by reading a statement from the Governor's office pertaining to that. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Mass General Law 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Harwich Conservation Commission on June 2nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website at www.harwich-ma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so via recording on demand on the Harwich Channel 18 website or on our Town of Harwich YouTube page. So welcome once again, and rumor has it this may be the last remote meeting or one of the last, so we might just be in person next time, which would be very nice, I think. So let me call the meeting to order and start the agenda. The first item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 5 C Street, map 7, parcel D22. It's a proposal for a new dwelling, and they have asked for a continuance. And is it until, what date is it, Amy?
We'd like July 7th.
Okay. Well, then I move that we grant them a continuance for the hearing until July 7th, 2021.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Amy Questle, Council, just because we're still in remote you do need to do a roll call at the beginning of the meeting as to the members that are here.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, that's fine. Not pertain to any vote, just to announce attendance.
Just to announce who's here. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. All right, then we'll do a roll call to indicate who is present for the Conservation Commission's members, and we'll start with a roll call of myself. I, Brad Chase. Next, Ernie.
Crabtree.
And next is Mark Coleman.
Mark Coleman.
Stan, you're up.
Hi, Stan Prestige.
John.
John Ketchum is here.
And then Carolyn.
Carolyn O'Leary.
Okay. So I think we're just missing Jim tonight, Jim Donovan. All right. And I guess what we'll do is we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, John. And then we'll vote by roll call. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark. Stan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Carolyn. And myself, Brad Chase. Aye. Motion carries 6-0. And next we have a request to amend an order of conditions for 19 Wacquasit Road, map 5, parcel K1-41. And they seek to request to amend the order of conditions number SE 32-2360A. And it is a request to change a patio into a sunroom and install a roof over another portion of the patio and install solar panels on the roof. Do we have a representative here tonight for the project?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
We actually sent a notice on that because we'd like to withdraw that application.
Okay. Both portions of that.
We had already withdrawn the second covered porch, and the only remaining item was the conversion of the covered porch to a 4-season room. And we're requesting, we are withdrawing that application.
Okay. All right, well, I guess I'm going to ask Amy for an update and a summary on the status for this project.
Sure. Well, Mr. Stevens does, and that was Mr. Stevens, the homeowner. He does have the right to request or to withdraw application. As we are sitting here, I'd like to just on the record ask a few questions of Mr. Stevens, if that's permissible. So the Conservation Commission issued a stop work order on March 18th on the project. Since then, the project continued and received a sign off from the building commissioner on March 26th. So the stop work order was never lifted, but work did continue. It remains to be seen whether or not in compliance with the Conservation Commission's original order of conditions. You know, I have not been back onto the site. I respect that the wish of the owner on that. I would like to request permission to come back on site. From observation from a public road, I have questions about, I just want to see for myself if the room, which is supposedly, or the porch, which is supposedly completed for the building permit, was completed or not. So that is my request.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by completed. Since there was no work beyond the envelope of an existing structure to begin with, from a conservation standpoint, the work was completed before it was started, technically. We came out, we did do a site visit in your absence, Amy, and confirmed that I believe we confirmed that the plans as submitted were dimensionally correct. There was some discussion about how I had to modify the stone wall to hold the structure. But since there was not any work outside of the existing structure's envelope, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. There was a lot of talk about design, features, aesthetics. Once again, I'm not sure why we went down that road. We can have that argument again if you'd like. But we actually, after the stop work order, I didn't get it because you sent it to my old address. So I didn't get it for about a month. But I did call the building department the next day and said, if you heard about a stop work order, because we are not doing anything technically in the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission unless how this structure looks is in the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. The building inspector, the chairman, said, I mean, you can shake your head, Amy, or you can let me finish speaking. The building commissioner said, I don't see a stop work order. So I had the building inspector come out that afternoon to inspect what we had done so far. He signed off on the building permit March 29th as a rough inspection, if you will, a frame inspection, saying that it conformed with the plans that he had, which were the same plans that you have. So if you feel like targeting me and making stuff up, all for it, proceed. But I've got the building inspector came out in March and said he's building according to the plans. I then finished my interior work, including a door between the house and this new room, because I had to secure my house, and had the building inspector back out March 25th to confirm and to close the permit out as complete. So that's where I stand right now.
Okay. May I speak now, please, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I don't argue that according to your building permit, you may have done the work as per your building permit. I suggest, and I recommend to the Conservation Commission, that this permit is within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction under the bylaw, where in the bylaw it states that any new structure or addition shall be sited at least 60 feet away from a resource area. Conversion of a deck or porch to a room or a screened-in 3-season room, 4-season room is, in my professional opinion, an addition. And with that, I would like to turn it over, if possible, to Attorney Questle on behalf of the town.
Thank you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm sorry, my internet cut out for a second there, but I thought that I did hear Mr. Stevens state that it was a conversion of a covered porch to a four-season room. So that is correct, right? I did hear that, or no? In the very beginning, a four-season room?
If it's okay, right now, the only permit that is up for discussion is a conversion of the elevated patio to a covered porch, which we've got, back in 2018, we got an order of conditions to complete.
So how did I hear four-season room?
We had an amendment request to that, which we've had a couple of hearings on. There seemed to be a lot of pushback on that particular amendment. That is the amendment we withdrew.
But you now have walls, correct?
We have 6 posts that are per the plan, and we have a roof per the plan. The dimension is the same as the plan. I mean, a lot of it comes down to the semantics of where does a covered porch end? Where does a porch start? Where does the sunroom end? Where does the sunroom start? But there are no operable windows. There's no heating out there. There's a door between the main house and this new room. After we saw that the commission had a specific opinion about the conversion of a covered porch to a full season sunroom, we changed plans a little bit, realizing that we weren't going to get that permission to keep it as a covered porch. So the only permit we've acted under is the covered porch permit.
So I guess that we need to see. We need to see what this is. What are the changes? Because it appears that it's not what this commission has approved. So because it appears that there's more than just posts. Because you have windows, you say they're not operable, but they're windows. So if you have windows, you have more than just posts.
We don't have windows. We have sort of plastic panels like you'd see at a restaurant serving outside to keep the wind down. But we don't have.
But those are supported by something. I think the commission needs more.
I'm happy to go through the plans. If you want to look at the plans, we can look at them right now. That's why I sent them to Amy.
But you are withdrawing your.
No, the original plans, the covered porch plans.
And the covered porch plans showed windows.
No, they showed 12-inch by 12-inch posts between 6x6 openings.
Hang on one second, I apologize here. Just for Attorney Quessel's notification, Conservation Commission only approved the site plan that showed the footprint. In their orders and conditions, they did not cite the architectural drawings, which were provided and specifically called out for it not to become finished.
Right. I did see that.
Sorry, hang on one second. I apologize.
So I guess if it's not finished, why was there even a building permit required?
The only building permit that's been issued is for the covered porch. The 2018 permit for which we went to conservation for, and we got the permit for that in late 2018. And these plans are referenced in the order of conditions. I have copies of them being sent to conservation, but they were not filed as part of the order of conditions. Only the site plan was filed. And as happened at the last meeting, we sent them in and Amy said, why would I need the plans? Because that's aesthetic. And I'm happy to go through the plans, point by point. Whatever more you want to go through, I'll go through on the plans. And those are the plans that the building department had, the conservation had. Maybe they weren't recorded with the order, but they were referenced in the 2018 order.
Well, I guess, Mr. Stevens, you have a choice. If you're withdrawing your if you're withdrawing your amendment, I think then you're withdrawing your amendment. You have the right to do that. Then this commission, I think, has to then go out and see what was actually built, whether it was built by a building permit or not. It's within your jurisdiction, and whether it was permitted under an order of conditions or under a DA, you have to determine that. And if it was not, then it has to be put on the next agenda as enforcement. So, I mean, I think that's where we stand.
Can we look to have a date before the next meeting, Mr. Stevens? We can come out and take a look at it.
That's fine.
What do you think, Amy? Do you want to try on the regular site visit day before the Wednesday, or do you want to get out there sooner?
I think for everybody, I think sooner would be better. So we're not looking at something the day of the next meeting. So if it is acceptable to Mr. Stevens, tomorrow I will put together an email between, and schedule something with Mr. Stevens and the commissioners to have a site visit.
Targeting next week?
I would be targeting next week. And Mr. Stevens, if there is a time and day that works better for you.
You let me know, I'll come down. That's fine. So.
Thank you. I will send that email out tomorrow. It's not something I think we can decide upon tonight. So
All right.
I need to look at the schedule for next week.
Can I ask one question though? We're talking a lot about the aesthetics. Can I ask what the goal would be of, we seem to have a different plane here on what we're thinking about. Is it habitable space? Is it four-season room? I mean, we're talking about as Mr. Crabtree pointed out last time, a project that has no environmental impact. By making it not four-season, you actually have more environmental impact because we won't have the nitrogen enhancement. So can I ask what the goal is, other than to try to catch me in something or to punish me or to target me somehow? Because from an environmental impact, this is not a new structure. This is an existing structure. Unless raised patios or covered porches are not, because what I'm saying is my covered patio that you approved is a structure. So how can, not to beat the dead horse, but what is our goal here? Our goal is environmental protection. And you essentially denying me the right to do a four-season room, which means there'll be no nitrogen enhancement on the system. And now we're intent on punishing me somehow to catch me in some lie that has to do with the building components. But let me ask you, what's the goal?
So Mr. Stevens, if I may, this commission is probably one of my busiest commissions. I mean, just think about it, Harwich. They are one of my busiest commissions. They are not attempting to catch people. They are not attempting. They have enough work to do. They truly have enough work to do. So I think you can just forget about all that. That's not what they're here for. There's a bylaw. There are regulations. They are following the bylaw. They are following the regulations. This is a board of volunteers. Amy is doing her job. There's nobody here trying to catch anybody. If you are going to put this, or if you are going to make this into a four-season room, then I suggest that you follow those regulations. You do the nitrogen, you get the proper permits, you come to this commission with the proper permits, you come to this commission with a waiver or a variance. You do it properly. The difference is that you're putting up walls. You're putting up walls that will displace stormwater, erosion, things like that. So there are reasons for these things. They have a bylaw. They have regulations. And again, they are not here to catch anyone. They have enough to do. They are a very professional board. They're gonna go about tonight doing their business as they always do. So so that is their purpose. Their purpose is to follow their bylaw and to follow their regulations. And by the way, their bylaw is and always will be voted on by town meeting. So that is what their direction is, and that is what they will do.
I understand, and I respect that. I understand it's not an easy job, and you're right. Harwich has a lot of delicate, environmentally sensitive areas. I appreciate that. The crux of the argument that I've had from day one is this is a remodel of an existing structure. And for some reason, I can't, even though Arlene started this in 2018 as a remodel of an existing structure, I've read the bylaws 100 times, and I cannot, in my mind, interpret how a sunroom can be a new structure, but a covered porch with its stormwater management, its loading, which we already accounted for, which was accounted for when you weren't party to that, Amy, in the present. So we seem to be very fixated on how I use this room. We're not fixated on how this room affects the area environmentally. That stinks like targeting, like prejudice, like we may not like Ben Stevens, we may not like who he is, we don't like the fact that Stan would say he comes over the bridge, he's one of those guys that gets in traffic. I know that, you don't have to like me, but let's look at the bylaw. Let's look at forget the Wetlands Protection Act, because we were already past that. There's nothing there. I ask any member to show me in their bylaw how this is any different. And I'll have an offline debate with that.
You are no longer doing a remodel. You are now doing an addition. And trust me, it makes no difference if you're coming across the bridge or not. I have dealt with this commission for a very long time. They are a very fair commission. It makes no difference. Trust me, Mr. Stevens. And I have dealt with you, Mr. Stevens, in other towns and situations. It makes no difference. Trust me. So
okay.
You can just pack that away. And I suggest that the commission take a site view and determine whether, this is in compliance with what they have already approved. And if not, I think that then we have to determine if this is going to become, you do need to go forward with your amendment, or if this becomes enforcement, and that's up to you. But I'm not really sure that there's anything more we need to get into tonight with regard to, attacking Mr. Stevens or anything, because honestly, that is not happening. I can vouch for this commission. It's not happening. I really can.
Fair enough.
All right, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Ben. And I think we'll probably forego questions from the commissioners, because I think we all need to get out to the site and take a look at it. Unless anybody has a burning question they would like to ask, I think we'll just, we'll wait for the scheduling of the site visit.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? Just technically. So, Mr. Stevens, after that discussion that we had, is it your wish to still withdraw, or would you like to continue? Our next meeting is the 16th. It is up to you if you want to continue, if you want to withdraw or continue.
My feeling at the last meeting was that this was not a board that would ever vote for that. I couldn't, my brain couldn't get around that. So I didn't feel like it was proper to proceed with something that would never happen. So I have $20,000 in windows that I am going to use on another project. And I've finished the room off with the door on the inside so I can secure it for the winter time. Would I love the room? Yes. Would I don't mind putting the nitrogen enhancement in? Absolutely. I would put triple times the nitrogen enhancement in. I just didn't feel like at the last meeting didn't matter if I could solve the world's problems, this board would ever let me have that. So I have no choice. And if I'm having an offline discussion that's saying if there's mitigation and enhancement, if you do X, Y, and Z, that's something that would get you to this room. Of course, would love it. I'd love it. But I didn't feel like we could even get there. So it's a loaded question, Amy, because to me, it's a very straightforward, non-environmental impact application. But I don't feel like it was being viewed that way, so I had no choice but to withdraw. So if you have suggestions on how I could get there, I'm all for it.
Well, today you just sent me a plan showing, I believe, some additional potential mitigation. I'm not saying that you can't get there. I think I would recommend to keep it open. I would recommend that you continue to June 16th. We meet out on the site next week, take a look at what's there, and try to come up with a logical agreement about between our regulations, not just our bylaws, but our regulations, come to an understanding, hopefully, of that, and have a productive discussion at the next meeting.
Okay. I'm open for it.
Okay.
All right, then I think I'd like to move that we continue until June 16th, 2021. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, seconded by Mark. Under discussion, did you have a question, Carolyn?
No, I was going to second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries 6-0. We'll schedule a site visit and go from there. Thank you. Thank you both for the discussion tonight. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. We have a request for determination of applicability, 19 Quasit Road, map 5, parcel K1-41. It's for the pool fence. And I guess we're looking for a status in the pool fence. Is that correct, Amy?
So we did receive documentation from Mr. Stevens that the fence will be removed. I recommend, and I apologize if there was a time stated in the document. I think we came up with the same time anyway. Somebody mentioned 30 days. I suggested, just to make it even, my suggestion is July 1, which is 29 days, if you will. But just an easier day to remember and document is the first of a month. So, Mr. Stevens, if you had anything to add to that, that's what I gathered from the information that was provided.
No, I'm working on that, and it shouldn't be a problem. We're having a bunch of people over on the 4th of July. It'd be great to control the dogs a little bit, but you know, the coyotes come through there every day looking for geese. So you might have just gave a death sentence to a 20 or a 15-pound dog, but I'll let you know next year. So, but I'll remove it. So.
All right. I think that's the update we were looking for. Any additional thoughts or comments from any of the commissioners? I don't think we need any action, correct, Amy?
I would suggest that you set a date for removal by, and vote on it.
Right, and you recommended July 1st. All right, well, I recommend that we request removal by July 1st, 2021.
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote by roll call. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries 6-0. All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have a request for determination of applicability for 316 Lowell County Road, map 12, parcel W4-1A and W4-1B. It's a proposal for an addition of pool, porch, and hardscape in the flood zone. We have a representative here for the project tonight?
Yes, Rick Judd from Moran Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Through the chair, may I start?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, so this is at 316 Lower County Road. Jeffrey Held, Lisa Giovanetti. They're really good with Irish names. It is 2 lots for a residential lot comprised of 34,363 square feet. The existing property has a stone driveway, garage, and dwelling with a brick patio on the west side of the home. It is bordered by Spruce Gate Drive. To the north, we have a residential home. To the east, we have residential homes, and Lower County Road to the south. It's entirely within the 100-year floodplain. What the property owners would like to do are make some substantial improvements on the property. They would like to add an 8x12 shed, what I would classify as an equipment pad behind the shed for the proposed 20-foot by 40-foot pool. The pool would be surrounded by a patio. With that patio area attached to the house where the current brick patio would be basically a screen porch. There would be an expansion of the stone driveway and some future improvements being decorative retaining walls. There is a raised septic system to the north, and it makes perfect sense to have a step up to that. It would actually enhance the look of it. I think at this time, to just kind of expedite the meeting, I'll take any questions, and we do have Phil Cheney relative to any landscape specific questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have a summary for us on this one?
Sure. So as Mr. Judd stated, the only resource area here is flood zone, which is what we call land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's in an A zone, which is a standing water zone. In the event of a 100-year storm, you may have some water. There are no performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act for land subject to coastal storm flowage. This has been being worked on by the state, and we hope to have those, well, hopefully within the next year or two. So the commission is left to judge to kind of the best of their ability whether or not that what you're proposing to do is going to have an adverse impact to adjacent properties in the event of a coastal storm, not a rain event, nothing like that, a coastal storm such like a hurricane. So due to the flatness of the lot and the patio having a drain or drainage, and the fact that the septic system's already mounted, so you're adding walls and whatnot to an already elevated area, I don't see that this work is going to have any adverse impact to land subject to coastal storm flowage should we get that storm. It is a fair amount of work, but the area where most of it is occurring is only grass. And again, it is flat. So minimal grading. Let's see. Rick, did you say the patio was going to be, the runoff was going to be directed into a dry well, or is that what the comment was that I? Okay.
On the landscape plan, which is included in the packet, there is a slot drain that the patio runoff would be collected at. In addition to that, if I could just add, the current area is basically a grass field. So any negative pitch or accessory pitch would be collected on the grass area from a recharge purpose.
Okay. Thank you. They're also proposing this as far as landscaping, removal of trees along Lower County Road, which have seen better days, and a couple along Spruce Gate. There is vegetation proposed to be replanted on the exterior of the fence as it is on the road. So long story short, I would recommend approval of the project with a couple of conditions. That we do have that patio drain, that if the pool water is to be lowered or removed, that it has to be taken off site and not disposed of, on the site. And our typical condition of no fertilizers or chemicals within the property in our jurisdiction, which is in the floodplain, to reduce any nitrogen or chemical impacts in our wetland resource areas. So with that, I would recommend a -2 determination to approve the project because the work is technically in a resource area.
Thank you, Amy. Well, let's ask for questions and comments from commissioners, and I'll start with Ernie.
Yeah, I have no question. Well, let me just ask one real minor question. So on you've got 3 plans here with 3 different dates, 4/13, 4/19, 5/26. Are you going to have 2 sheds on the property then, Rick, or the latest plan shows 2?
Thank you. May I call you Commissioner Ernie? Yeah, thank you. The only shed that is going to be proposed would be to the south. I do stand corrected. The 8x12 to the north on the landscape plan is not the, we were looking at alternatives, and I apologize. The shed to the south on a plan dated 19 April 2021 is what is proposed.
Okay, that's fine. It was just a net, but I was just wondering. I have no other questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Mark?
Project seems very straightforward. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Stan?
No questions.
John?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment that I noticed when we were out there today that on the west side of the septic mound, there's a substantial growth of Japanese knotweed, which I think would be a good idea. I don't know that we can require that, but it would be a good idea if while you're beautifying things there, you got rid of all that knotweed. I don't know whether Amy has any comments about that, but that's my only comment. Thank you.
I don't think we can necessarily require it, but I share your sentiment that we would encourage you to do so while you're in there making property improvements anyway.
All right,
Through the
thanks.
chair, I'll certainly, in good faith, I believe the clients would like to do what's best for the environment and the knotweed. We will have that discussion. I'll strenuously encourage that removal.
All right. Thank you on that item. All right, Carolyn, you're up.
How many dry wells do you have planned for the patio around the pool?
There is a slot drain, and we can configure it relative to recharge for the size of the patio and the runoff relative to the porch, the enclosed screen porch.
Okay, so now that sounds nice, but I don't understand the proportions. When you said you're going to change the size relative to that, I mean, how big are you going to make it?
I'll be honest, we have not calculated the total size of it. We have a high groundwater table. That seasonal high groundwater table would be viewed, and we would take the area that would be necessary, and we would either make it broad base and shallow, or we would use something that might perhaps be 1 to 2 feet in depth, but it would be contingent on recharge and contingent on depth to seasonal high groundwater.
I didn't quite understand your aversion to a permeable patio.
Simply put, we had this discussion, and if you might imagine open joints and small children traversing across patios, running, there is an opportunity for a lot of different things to happen with the crevices and cracks. It is not the ideal situation. So it's not an aversion as much as it's a matter of being pragmatic and safe. I think that most people with any kind of patio area have to look at, are you going to catch a toe, quite frankly, in something like that? Are you going to have weeds coming up? Are you going to potentially have chemicals being used to suppress weeds? I understand the question and I appreciate it. I think that the in-place patio, in my humble opinion, is superior to that of something that would drain in this particular situation.
Well, I think you had a couple of reasons there. I certainly have a good sized patio that is permeable, and I have 10 grandchildren and nobody's stubbed a toe yet.
Do you have a pool?
No, I do not, but that doesn't mean they wear shoes. But we certainly are an issue. I would kind of like to see a little bit. I have to admit I don't fully understand whether your drain it will be sufficient or not, and I don't think that it will affect your neighbors' properties. I think it will backflow into your own house, but I think it's better if you can dispel the water and have it absorb over a larger area. That's it.
Excuse me, Phil Cheney here, landscape designer, if I can respond to this a little bit.
Yes, please.
Sure. Yes, one of the problems when we're dealing with swimming pools, especially in patios, one of the advantages of having the patio area set in concrete is the inevitable amount of settling that takes place over the first few years. And with a concrete patio, we can really minimize any real dislocation in patio situation like that. So where everything is laid dry and so you get some differential settling with all the backfilling that's going on is generally just not a very good situation compared to just simply putting in one large dry laid patio, which is my preference in pretty much every other situation. And then the fact that we've got such a large open lawn area that we can disperse that runoff to me, it makes great sense to just have a good, firm, secure patio space along the pool and with plenty of room for it to disperse on the relatively level lawn and percolate through.
Well, thank you. Actually, that is different advice than my son was given as he's putting in his pool right now. So I will take both into consideration. Thank you.
All right. I have no additional comments. I think I'd like to ask for a motion at this point. One of the commissioners.
May I add something?
Sure.
Perhaps we should consider in the order of conditions the design calculation for the flow of what the water volume would be between the roof and the patio system. And I would suggest that the drain field be large enough to accommodate that. And if that was in the order of conditions, I think that may suffice for everyone's questions. That's all.
That's a very good point, Mark.
If I
Go
may,
ahead,
real
Amy,
quickly.
please. Yeah.
This is a request for determination of applicability, so there's not an order of conditions, but I can put a condition worded very similar in that, and that they provide that. It's just a little bit different permit. So
I'm a little concerned if the calculation's fine that it's over capacity, then what happens from a design perspective? How do we handle that?
I think there are two elements here. The calculations that can be provided would be relative to the proposed screen porch and patio areas. Relative to the work being done, the drain being proposed, that would be between the dwelling and the pool, and then the pitch going to the lawn. We can get that figured out. We have substantial lawn area here. We have substantial open area here. I have a high degree of confidence that we will be able to construct the appropriate size to fit this concern of the commission. Again, right now it is an open grass lawn area, the area being taken up by the pool, the patio, and the proposed enclosure on the west side of the house. We can address that based on calculations for pitch, recharge, and appropriate drainage based on seasonal high groundwater. We can be successful with that.
Okay, that sounds really good. All right then, Carolyn?
Do you take into consideration the size of the pool too?
Could you please clarify that question?
Well, my thought is if it rains, it's going to rain into the pool also. It's either going to raise the level of the pool or it's going to remain on the cover of the pool. And that will have to flow someplace too. So the square footage of the pool should be taken into consideration as well it seems to me, when you figure out how large a drain you need.
If that is the commission's directive, we will add the 800 square feet. There is open area typically between the top of the pool and the patio area. I believe that's, I appreciate the concern, but if that's the direction that the board is going to direct us to go in, we'll have to figure that out.
It's Phil Cheney here. I've never encountered a situation where the pool filled up with rainfall and overflowed, so that would be a new one.
Yeah, I would expect that there'd be a capacity at the pool level that's kept that would have to cover, average or high rain events, I would think. So I think that Mark's suggestion is good. I think that that's a good thing to put in and ask them to produce that calculation and any design response if necessary.
I'm fine with that. As I said, it looks to me like it will not bother other neighbors, which would be our main concern. It looks to me like the water would go back into their own house. So.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to ask for a motion and keep in mind Mark's recommendations as well as Amy's.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the request for determination of applicability for the addition of a pool porch and hardscape in the flood zone at 316 Lower County Road. And then I need Mark's words for what he was proposing.
What I suggested was to have a drain field large enough to handle the design calculation for the water volume that would be expelled from the porch and pool deck area. Just to address Alan's concern, I wouldn't be too concerned about the overflowing of the pool, or even any water if there was a full cover. That's generally handled within the confines of the apparatus. The only shedded water is going to be the patio space.
Thank you.
Okay, so my motion include how Mark just described the calculations that are required.
And John, can you add that it's a -2 as well as?
With a -2 determination, yes. Thank you.
Yep, and we can condition this to have no chemical applications as well.
Right. We'll include
All right.
that.
Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay by roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye, but I just wanted to comment, we also had Amy's comment regarding pool water to be removed off-site if drawdowns.
Yep, that's essentially a boilerplate at this point. We haven't varied from that in a very long time. Okay, so Stan's an aye, and then John?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 0 Old Campground Road, map 30, parcels C6, C7, C8, and C9. It's a proposal for new dwelling. They've asked for a continuance, and they want to come back in July, Amy, is it? What's the date?
July 7th.
Okay, so I move that we grant a continuance until July 7th, 2021. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, seconded by Ernie. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. By roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carolyn? And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries 6-0. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 50 Martha's Lane, map 43, parcel 6-9. It's a proposal for a single-family dwelling with apartments. And I think we have Ms. Hamlin here to represent the project.
Yes, good evening. Lynn Hamlin representing the applicant. Chris Child should be here too. You heard the project first at your last hearing and asked us to consider a few things for mitigation. The three things were sliding the garage closer to the street. We looked at that. The garage is actually the part of the structure that is the furthest from the wetland. It's 97 feet away. The foundation corner is 92 feet away, and the deck is 80 feet away. What that does is makes the inside of the house not work. So for 3 feet, it didn't seem reasonable to compromise the integrity of the whole structure for 3 feet, which you still have two portions of the structure that are closer. The other thing that we were asked to look at is putting on an IA system. And the unique thing about this property is that the wetland in the back of it forces a septic system to be in a zone 2. If the wetland wasn't there, they could have slid it back and gotten a 3-4 bedroom dwelling out of it. But because of the wetland being located in the rear and the zone 2 drinking water protection zone being in the front, it forced this property to only have a 2-bedroom dwelling. So it became the self-limiting factor of the property. The DEP looks for 10 parts per million nitrogen. This site only generates 6.55. So it's already doesn't have a lot of nitrogen loading. This is not a sensitive zone in being an embayment. So the sensitivity comes as a drinking water source. And this does meet both Title V and Town of Harwich health standards. And it is presumed to protect the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. But the big thing that did come out of the last meeting was the mitigation plan. And the chairman suggested that we look at plants that provided better wildlife habitat value. And while the plants that I did have listed on the first revision were all native, it was kind of fun to go back over the different plants, and I hope you enjoyed it. I gave everybody lots of paper to review which plants actually had higher habitat value than other plants. So I revised the plan using high habitat value native plants, also beefed up the number of the plants, and I went back out to the site to look at the area where the work limit line is. And I hope you can get the representation of it in the photos that I added to the revised plan. But this site is also unique that when you get up into the area where the house is proposed, it's a typical oak pine. It's nothing unique. It's an oak pine canopy, and the understory is very sparse. So putting in a dense shrub buffer between the house and the resource area or the extended resource area through its buffer zone actually is a nice opportunity to add edge habitat, which is very important for wildlife. And moving that work limit line, it doesn't really save anything except for we would move it to capture this one white oak tree that's on the work side of the work limit line. We could easily move it so that we preserve that white oak. So we included the plans. I won't read the plan to you. I'm sure you read with great interest all my paperwork. But we did feel that that was a way to improve the mitigation that was being proposed on the property. So I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions or comments.
All right, thank you for your efforts on that. Amy, summary comments?
I'm getting some reverb. Lynn, I'm going to mute you for now.
Okay.
Is that better?
Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you to the applicant for their due diligence that they did. I think you took all the commissioners' comments, and whether or not everything was changed, I don't think it's neither here nor there, but everything was evaluated thoroughly, I might add. I want to keep it fairly brief, but basically, I don't think the commission has the, ability to require that there is IA treatment. That would be the Board of Health, and it does meet Title V. So essentially, I think that we should follow along with what the Board of Health would require here. In review of their planting plan, I agree with Ms. Hamlin that the understory of the buffer is a bit sparse, and the addition of some native high-value habitat plants or high-value plants would enhance that near shore area buffer for habitat, if you will. The house is situated up near the street between two other adjacent lots. So in terms of wildlife habitat, the quality habitat is down closer to the resource area because the top being in a neighborhood adjacent to other homes is somewhat fragmented already. So as the plantings that have been added, I do consider those as some mitigation for the proposed work. As it is now proposed, I don't see how this project will have a negative impact to the wetland, regardless of whether or how we calculate mitigation. I think, as I said, that some mitigation in terms of beefing up the buffer in this particular case is mitigation. I do think the commission has the ability to grant a variance should you decide that this project will not have an adverse impact. With our typical conditions as far as no chemicals and fertilizers within the 100-foot buffer zone, and our other typical conditions, I would recommend approval of this project.
All right, thank you, Amy. And just to be clear, that the variance would solely be for relaxing the mitigation requirement in the 52-100.
That is, when I reviewed our regulations and bylaws, that is the only place where a variance was, to grant a variance was needed.
Yep, okay, thanks. All right, well, let's go through questions and comments from the commissioners. I'll start with Ernie.
I'm going to pass for right now, Brett.
Okay, I'll come back. Mark?
I agree with Amy, that's all.
All right, Stan?
Glenn, I'm just trying to go back. In terms of the mitigation, what was required and how much is being provided? You're muted.
Unmuted. There you go. Now you should be able to hear me. Am I the one reverbing on you? I keep, Jesus, sorry. That's what I get for trying to move my speaker away from myself. Sorry, at least the dog's not barking.
It could be your speaker or if you have two devices going.
How about my phone? Is that better?
Yeah.
Seems to be, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
my phone is too close. Oh, I'm sorry. I've never had this problem. Let me move my phone. All right, I don't know what else to do. Good? Okay, great. So I calculated the mitigation and it's the best we can do because again, you get into that vacant lot conundrum. But we are adding edge habitat in the sense of dense native shrub layer that does not exist on the site. In that area, because we're carrying it along the length of the work limit line and then carrying it up the property line to the 100-foot buffer line. So you're getting, I believe I said, 113 linear feet, and we've shown 10-foot width. So you get 1,130 square feet. If you count that as mitigation, it's over 2 to 1. It's almost 3 to 1. And that is, that's how I calculated it, with the understanding that I am enhancing a vacant site.
All right, thank you.
And just to follow up, I mean, we would be looking for 2 to 1, correct?
You're asking me? Your regs require 2 to 1.
Yeah, I just kind of asking that question just to be clear. So I think you cover, with that explanation, I think you cover that. So I don't know if we need a variance. How do you feel about that, Amy?
Well, just based on how you viewed things in the past, sometimes the commission does not, I'm getting some reverb again. It just really throws me off.
I know.
Hang on. Okay, Lynn, you'll have to unmute again. I don't know what's going on. But sometimes the commission in the past has not considered planting in an already natural area as complete mitigation, but I think that it can be site specific. I do think that it's really, if you do not feel, if you feel this is full mitigation, then no variance is needed. I just went on the background of, at times the commission hasn't always considered replanting of a natural area, even if it is to enhance it as full mitigation. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, and that's a good explanation.
And I do think this one will enhance. So.
Yeah. I think the question comes up quite a bit on plantings in naturalized areas. It also comes up with removing invasives to put in plantings. And, I think commission members have different thoughts on that. But for myself, in this case, it's approaching a 2.7 to 1. I think it's positive. So, and I think we kind of went over ideas last hearing over things that could be done. So I feel pretty good about that. All right, let me pick things up again. I guess we would Stan, you all set? Okay, so John?
Yeah, I was all set.
Thanks, Stan.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I appreciate the effort to identify and describe for us in great detail the habitat value of high value plantings there. So I'm fine with this.
Okay, Carolyn.
I echo John. I'm fine. Thank you.
Oh, good. All right, and I feel the same. I'm happy that the chickadees will do better at this location. So I've got one minor question. It's really for my own interest, and that's with the DP standard for nitrogen loading in this system, in this zone at 6.55 parts per million. What's the metric? Is that per acre? Is that per lot? Is there how is that? What is, I guess, the unit or the standard for that?
Now, I used to do septic design, so I'm getting this from, but I haven't done them in a long time. I got this from the engineer. It's for these zone 2s, it's 10,000 square feet per bedroom, and that would be the limiting factor. So this lot's only 21,000 square feet. So the nitrogen there's all different ways to do nitrogen calculation. The town of Dennis actually has their own formula. DEP has a formula. It's my Massachusetts accent formula. But it is square footage per nitrogen unit.
Yeah.
So that's how
Okay.
they come up with it. So we're less than the DEP standard of 10. They only want to see 10 parts. That must be per acre. And, or per acre. And we'd be at 6.55.
All right, thank you. Yeah, the explanation was helpful for our interest of considering the IA, so thank you for that. Any comments or questions from members of the audience?
Brad, if I may.
Yes, Ernie.
Lynn, can you mute yourself? There's still reverb in all of us.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can you mute yourself, please? We're still getting reverb. That's better. Does anyone know if this lot is going to be on the sewering plan?
Yeah, I don't know.
Lynn, do you happen to know?
I'm Wendy Deal, Realtor with William Ravis Realty. It is on the sewering plan, but I believe it's like way down the road. Eventually is when we looked into it, just because of the cost of lots and things like that.
So it will eventually be sewered then, is what you're saying, Wendy?
It's my understanding that it is past the current phase plan. Like it's not in 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6, I believe.
Oh, okay. So there's no certainty that it would ever be sewered.
Correct.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier about introducing an IA system onto this lot. You mentioned the nitrogen loading. It brought up the 6.6 or whatever on the maximum of 10. And the fact that this is a native lot that's pristine, I go back to all the other issues that we always had with similar kinds of lots where, it's very difficult to mitigate on a lot that's already virgin. That there's nothing to really mitigate. Better to leave it alone in many cases. But nonetheless, I have always taken the position, and I continue to take the position that a nitrogen mitigation system on a lot that is subject to or abutting a resource area is a good thing. In this particular case, where it's a undeveloped lot, there are very few invasive plants on this lot as it exists right now. I would be very much in favor of, I know Amy, you said that that's a health department issue, but I don't agree with that necessarily. I think that, as we've seen with Old Campground Road, they've offered that as a form of mitigation for that particular lot. And this one is very similar to that, and I would be much more favorably inclined to approve this if an IA system were introduced on this lot. Particularly given the fact that we don't know it will ever be sewered. That's my comment.
Thank you, Ernie. I guess my thoughts are somewhat coming from what Amy described, where it really isn't something that we can require outside of mitigation. And so it sounds like you're saying that would be your favorite mitigation. Any other thoughts from other commissioners on that? Carolyn?
I'd like to see if we could work around that. We have some other properties in front of us that a similar system might be advantageous also. I agree with Ernie in a way that I know it's the Board of Health, but I do think it's a protection of the resource.
Can I address a couple of those concerns?
Please. Yes, please.
I don't mean to annoy you with I don't know what you're hearing, but certain environments are more sensitive to nitrogen than other environments. This is not a nitrogen sensitive environment, except as being a drinking water recharge area. It's not a coastal embayment. It's a wooded wetland, which is not sensitive to nitrogen. Not that there's even going to be an excess of nitrogen generated from this site, because the system is forced to be a 2-bedroom system. So on this parcel, I mean, there might be an opportunity, or it might be significant for an IA system on a different lot that isn't already restricted by being in a zone 2. That might be beneficial, but on this lot, it is already confined to just a 2-bedroom house. And the other thing with these IA systems, they don't work that great on single family dwellings, especially if they're not used year round. So it's a lot of extra expense without any benefit, and you're not in a setting that requires it on a lot that's already being restricted by being located in a zone 2.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, John, go ahead.
These discussions about wastewater are complicated by a number of things, I think. One is, Lynn is saying, well, you're not near an embayment, but basically, eventually all the groundwater is flowing into the sea, and nitrogen doesn't get filtered out of the groundwater. It eventually gets into whatever, it gets into Nantucket Sound or wherever. It eventually gets there. It doesn't just sit in the ground. My actual concern, when we were at the site visit and I brought up, would an IA be a good idea here? My concern wasn't nitrogen flowing into embayments or into the saltwater environment. It was the wetland down the hill. And there, actually, it's not a nitrogen issue typically in freshwater environments. It's the phosphorus, and the IA System A doesn't do anything about the phosphorus as far as I know, unless someone is going to correct me. So that is still an issue. And I don't, my only thought was whatever we can do to mitigate the effect of phosphorus going into a shallow pond or wetland, where all the ponds around here are under potential threat of algae blooms, which isn't good for anybody or anything. But having said all that, I don't know what we can do about that other than not install a septic system here at all. In other words, not allow a building here at all. So I don't know what long-term, how much good an IA system really would be here, having brought it up in the first place, other than possibly mitigating the amount of nitrogen that eventually gets into, I don't know, whatever the watershed is there. I'm not sure what it is. It's probably Red River, actually, come to think of it. I don't know. I apologize for meandering, but I don't know what really the right thing to do here is.
Thanks, John. Helpful to get your perspective. Well, my thought is that, there is a DEP standard for this type of loading, and, the lot meets that given the zone. So I almost feel like it's maybe beyond our purview for this particular lot, for these particular resources. So that's my thought. I share your concerns. Red River Beach needs all the help it can get. Red River Beach is not in good shape presently. But I also think that they've made some accommodations here. Does anybody want to propose another way here, or shall we? Because I think otherwise we're ready to go to a motion on this. All right, well then I think I'm going to ask if someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent for 50 Martha's Lane. Does that require a -2?
No, it's a notice of intent. So, we're going to have our, no chemical application.
No, okay.
Condition. And I think, the planting plan comes with annual reporting. So we would have the conditions in the planting plan as well. I think we're looking for 3 years of reports. I don't know if it's clear from the plan, the 2.
Well, in this instance, there's not, 3, as Lynn is saying. Okay, we're agreeing on that. So that's fine. Just want to make sure we're all in agreement on a 3-year planting plan. What's unique about this site, there's not invasives to get rid of first. So you can really immediately plant in the next, we will condition it that it would be the same or next growing season after start of building on the house. So, okay, we're in agreement on that.
All right. Did we get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so John, seconded by John. So under discussion, any further thoughts? We've heard some good discussion on the alternative septic system concept.
And Brad, I think that was me. I didn't know if John seconded it or not.
I kind of called it for John. I think he beat you by a hair.
Okay, I didn't hear him. Okay, no problem.
Yep. All right, well, if there's no further discussion and no comments from members of the audience, then I'll call for a roll call vote. Those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay, starting with Ernie.
Yeah, I guess without the IA system and without moving the garage farther out from the resource area, I would vote nay.
Okay, Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries 5-1. Thank you all for some very good discussion on this topic. I think it's helpful. Okay. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 176 Gorham Road, map 24, parcel P4-1. And proposal for a pool hardscape with plantings. We have a representative here.
Yes, Dan Croto from Moran Engineering, here with Shannon Goheen, who drew the landscaping and mitigation plan, and the owners are also on. I see David Canavan and Mrs. Canavan. Let's see. So this is the addition of a pool and patio and an enlargement of the deck, small enlargement of the deck. Pool and patio will be in an area that's already lawn. I believe it's irrigated and heavily used lawn area. So I did the increase in hardscape numbers, and Shannon took over from there and did the landscaping mitigation layout, which was also given to the commission. And if Shannon, do you want to say anything? You want to talk about your landscaping plan a little bit to show mitigation improvements?
Can you all hear me all right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. There's a loose piled stone wall within the 100 to 50 foot wetland setback, and it crosses over the 100-foot river setback. And that demarcates a planted strip with an arbor. We propose to remove the arbor and most of the plantings, leaving one major tree and a couple of native shrubs. There is currently lawn on both sides of this planting. This plan calls for keeping the lawn area as is between the planted strip and the house. The lawn area between the planted strip and the wetlands will be allowed to revert to an unmown field. stone wall would be repurposed to create a border between the mown and the no-mow areas. The wall would be placed outside of the 50-foot wetland setback to accommodate the existing mature plantings. I know it's a little hard to see on your plan, but it is not within the 50-foot area. It's on the outside of it. I just want to speak about this wall. To be clear about it, it is simply loose stone. There's no base, there's no mortar. It's just stones piled on each other to create a barrier that is approximately 8 inches tall. It makes no disturbance to the land. It has no leaching effect, and it doesn't need any upkeep. The nature of such a wall makes it attractive to small wildlife, so it's an ecological boon. The intent, excuse me, in making the area behind the planted strip and the wetlands a no-mow area is to leave the land as undisturbed, uncut, and unirrigated as possible and allowed to regenerate as it will. We would also remove various piles of wood on the edges of the slope between the upland and the wetlands. And we would remove invasives such as bittersweet that occur on the edges of the upland and the wetlands. We believe that this landscape solution is a major improvement over what currently exists and will improve the health of the wetlands rather than challenge it in any way. And the land will move into the future untouched and intact with this plan. So that is what I wanted to say about it at this point.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have any summary comments for us?
Yes. First, kind of piggybacking on comments that were for our project on Lower County Road earlier tonight. I don't know if we talked about this at the last meeting, and I'm sorry if we did, and I'm not remembering. Drainage for the pool and patio, or for the patio, and is the patio going to be pitched to a drain? Is it pervious? I apologize if I forget.
The patio is existing, and then there was a small section added towards the building on the building side, but the main patio area has been there, and what doesn't go through the cracks streams overland flow to the sides, which are I believe is bushes on the sides. So the patio on the side of the house, that is the patio of the pool, we're looking at just it's far enough away from the sides, and there's bushes, and beyond the lawn itself, there's a cushion of bushes, natural bushes on the side. So we're just looking at overland flow going into the ground. What DEP stormwater would call LID, it matches one of their requirements. So it seems to be, there is more than enough area to absorb the patio area before getting certainly to the BVW or the riverfront area. So we weren't looking at anything except for using the natural grade.
I think in this instance, to me, that's fine. I mean, the commissioners can chat about it. You have a distance to any other homes. You have a distance to the resource area. The grade is gradual. The patio is not huge. I don't particularly, in this instance, see the need for any additional treatment.
And it's also beyond just grass. It's also going to turn into what Shannon's creating, the barrier right along the BVW, and then also on the sides is bushes that has, I believe, more than enough to absorb the patio area.
Okay. Thank you. I do think this project has a lot of benefits. One, the activity that you're proposing, the pool, the hardscape, is all up close to the existing house. What you're proposing is mitigation, is, removing the boat storage from behind that shed there. It would condition that the boat, while not a structure, it does sit for a large portion of the year in what we call our 50-foot no disturb zone. And as the lot is fairly large area outside the 50-foot, hopefully we can come to an agreement that it can be, stored outside the 50-foot buffer zone in the off season. Then let's see. You still want to mow the area behind the shed once monthly. It's been happening. I mean, you've been mowing and being back there for quite a while. I don't necessarily see the huge negative to continuing to mow that just on a monthly basis. The area that beyond, seaward, if you will, of the very loose stone wall that you are proposing as a no mow zone, I would actually, in order to keep it a meadow, which is a fairly rare habitat and you could easily achieve there, is actually to mow it once annually. And that would be, at November 1st or after November 1st, after migratory season. That would keep it a meadow habitat and prevent woody vegetation from coming in. And not that we don't like woody vegetation, but I think this site really lends itself to that more of a meadow type habitat. Just a recommendation. Let's see. You're required to do 3,242 square feet of mitigation for your hardscape within the riverfront. You're proposing just over that in terms of area that you're going to stop mowing. And I'd like to add along with that is area, and it doesn't look like you do this, but area that would be conditioned to not be treated with fertilizers or other chemicals in the future. And that would just, for yourselves or for future owners, whatever, it would really enhance or prevent damage to water, any water quality entering the wetland system. Okay. I did mention to Shannon and Dan about the living fence that a component of it is a geranium that is not native to here. It is not invasive. To me, I do believe after looking at it again, I think there's other parts of the project that far improve the wetland resource area and its interest. And I don't think for me, it's not a sticking point to stick with the original geranium that you wanted, seeing as how it's not invasive. That being said, we do suggest natives, but with those chemicals, with those conditions, not chemicals, I would recommend approval of the project for 176 Gorham Road.
Thank you, Amy. Let's go through questions and comments from commissioners. I'll start with Ernie.
Yeah, just a question for the owner. Do you know where you'll be storing the boat going forward then?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. There's plenty of other areas in the property I can put the boat, just move it closer to the house.
All right, yeah, that's fine. I have no other comments on what's proposed, and it looks very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, just one thing. I'm looking at the 50-foot that whole area that goes up to the north right there where the shed is. Just to me, it seems like it would be so much more beneficial to let that area revert to a meadow as well, and even to the extent of moving that shed forward up out of there so that area stays undisturbed. That would be a preference on my part. But other than that, I have no issue with the project.
All right, thank you, Stan.
I don't have any comments, Brad.
Okay, John.
Yeah, so my only comments are about the living fence. And it doesn't seem to me the low bush blueberry is really a living fence. And it's not that I really object to it, but it would be pretty easy for someone with a lawnmower to run over the low bush blueberry unintentionally and make a mess. I would think you would want higher woody shrubs. And the other part of it is the geranium macrorhizum. That's sort of even a more extreme example of that sort of thing. If it's really supposed to be serving as a living fence, it's not woody at all. And furthermore, it'll die off completely over the winter. There will be nothing there. So I'm not sure how that in any way serves as a living fence. I mean, it's a nice thing, and maybe it's not a problem behind that wall, but it seems like non-optimal choice for a living fence, I guess is the way I would put that. But those are my comments.
All right, thank you, John. Carolyn?
No, I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we have a couple issues to look for a response to, and one would be, behind the living fence, mowing, monthly versus mowing once a year, as Amy suggested, and then having that same annual frequency further down towards the shed. I don't have strong preferences to either approach. And I think I do agree with John in terms of trying to make that living fence as natural and providing habitat value as well. So, for example, if the geranium was in the 50, I would not support that. It seems to be just over the 50 into the 100, and so it's kind of on the margin. But I think John's comments are pretty suitable. So, any responses to those items?
Yes. The geranium that I proposed is already there. And so I was just using it. We're not, we're definitely not going to fight about it. We don't care about it that much, but it's already there. So it made sense to me to just use it. I also want to keep the foreground low because the field will be high when it's a low plant. It'll look nice. It'll look beautiful. It'll look from low to the high grass behind. As far as the low bush blueberry, I would prefer to have, I can only think of the Latin name. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Amy, what goes with blueberry and it's De La Sacchia? What's that? I can't come up with a common name.
You're asking the wrong person because I was actually going to say possibly huckleberry.
Yes. So huckleberry is taller than low bush blueberry, and if I can find it, it's hard to find. It's very hard to buy. If I can find it, I would much prefer that to low bush blueberry. Other shrubs, I mean, it's hard to get them going in these times of drought. And where they are out there, we have to irrigate them a lot. I mean, that just changes the relationship of the land out there. The extra water, I don't see how that could be an improvement. We're changing the conditions. They're trying to get something established.
Can I make a quick recommendation, Shannon? For a drought tolerant, fairly low, but actually woody plant, maybe consider sprinkling in some sweet fern out there. It adds you'd be allowed to have temporary irrigation to get anything going because it's hard to get anything going without any watering. I would caution a little bit against the blueberry too. Blueberry just in general has a hard time because the rabbits just absolutely decimate it and love it. So you spend the money on the blueberry and the rabbits. There's almost no cases where I've seen people use a lot of blueberry and have it not just get mown down by the rabbits. So huckleberry tends to fare a little bit better. That's my 2 cents.
I think sweet fern is great. And the drier the better for sweet fern, ultimately. I think you'd be fine using that as the living hedge if that's what you would prefer as a group.
It tends also, just for the commissions, it gets a little bit taller than those others. It's not a tall plant, but it is woody. It is a little taller.
About 2.5 feet, maybe.
Oh, well, thanks for that exchange. It sounds like you're leaning towards having the annual mowing behind the living fence. Is that where we are?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what the Canavans know that. We know that that's how it works, and there's no issue there.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Any comments from members of the audience? How about to Mark's comment on the shed location? Is that something that could be entertained?
I think that they want to keep it where as is, as it's been for a long time, I believe. And then I think that back grass area, which is a pretty wild grass, I believe, Shannon, isn't it? That's certainly not a fertilized, irrigated grass, but I would think it allows, kind of the meadow, allows animals to go between the two wooded areas. So I got a feeling that they don't want to go beyond the mitigation, the required mitigation. But
yep.
When you get into moving things, like, you've got to take equipment down there and dig up the ground a little bit, and I don't see how moving a shed forward a little bit is going to improve the wetland in any way. There's nothing going on there now, except a bunch of invasives, which we're trying to get rid of.
I guess a condition that if it's ever replaced or needs to be replaced, that at that point it's moved out of the 50. I'm sure they wouldn't have an issue with that. And I'm sure that's what the commission would want anyways.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's a pre-existing shed. And so I think it's kind of a choice really. So I think that's fine.
But I do understand the request. That's with these pre-existing structures, some of them being so close, I certainly understand the request.
Yep, we all do. There's plenty of wildlife there. I live on the other side of the bog, and every time that there's an ambulance going by, the coyotes go crazy. So, there are plenty of coyotes out there. Okay, well then I think we're ready to entertain a motion on this. If someone would like to make one, please.
I'll move we approve the order of notice of intent for 176 Gorham Road to install a pool, hardscape, and planning as proposed.
Okay, could I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Stan. Any further discussion? We've got a no chemical application condition, and we have the planting plan, which we're happy with. Do we have any reporting on the plantings, Amy? Any needs to have reporting?
I think documentation of when it was done, maybe a year after. I don't think there's major reporting needed, a year later, and then upon certificate of compliance request would be beneficial.
Okay. I think that's good. Carolyn, did you have something else?
No.
Okay. All right, then we'll vote by roll call. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. And we'll start with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all for your efforts. Appreciate the discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, so that concludes our notices of intent for tonight, and so we're moving on to orders of conditions. And the first one is for 16 Harbor Road, map 8, parcel S2, maintenance dredging and additional fender piles. And I think I'm going to sneak out for about
Any questions?
What's that, Amy?
I said, just let me know if you have any questions or comments on any of these orders. I'll type them in.
Okay. I'm going to sneak out for 1 minute. I'll be back. I have no comments on the first one.
I have no comments, Amy. Looks fine.
I have no comments.
I'm all set.
Ernie, you want to take over until Brad gets back?
I'm sorry, I was muted. If there are no other comments.
We knew.
Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 16 Harbor Road.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm taking a roll call, starting with Mark.
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Brad is in absentia, so I'll vote aye and we'll pass 5 with 1 abstain. The next order of conditions we have is for 31 Mill Road for a pool, hardscape, and planting. Amy, when I went through the draft that's in the Dropbox, it looked like the text below the name is all applying to 16 Mill Road. Just in my copy.
Let me, hold on 1 second. I apologize. I might have got the numbers mixed up when in Dropbox. Yeah, I think I did. Hang on 1 second. So when I open up draft order 31 Mill Road, I get, oh, okay, so it just needs to be changed to 31 Mill and not 16.
Yeah,
all the
text underneath that.
Everything else is fine.
Oh, my copy has all the text from 16 Harbor.
Not mine.
Oh.
So, in the special conditions?
No, I'm looking at the resources land under the ocean.
Oh, that does too. I apologize for that. I will fix that. As long as the special conditions are suitable, the right ones, then we're good. I can change the resource areas very easily, as well as the address on that one. I've been having some saving issues on my computer where it saves, half of what I write.
Yeah.
So I will change that. Okay. All right, we'll double check, make sure, address, plan names, dates, all that's right.
Okay.
Before
just the special conditions you want us to really look at then, right?
Yeah, if you look at the specials, all stuff that we discussed, at the site visit, or on the site visit, the meeting last time, we did get a new plan. I'm not sure if it's in Dropbox or not. Basically, it was a new plan from Wilkinson showing the plantings in the shrubby meadow area. The commission and myself wanted some of the plantings closer to that line where their lawn is going to stop and this meadow area is going to start to act more as a living fence. And they did that. It's not like one straight cohesive line, but the groupings of the plants have moved close, to that line essentially and are spaced out. And I feel much better about it.
But that's really not reflected in the special conditions or anything, right?
is reflected, the only way it's reflected is in the first page of the orders, in that the new plan is referenced, the new restoration plan is referenced as a plan of record. So they have to follow it.
Okay. Yeah, I have no comments on this, on the special conditions, other than just the lead in that you're going to change.
We'll change it. And we got Brad back.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any?
You abstained from 16 Harbor Road, Brad.
Okay, thank you for taking care of that, Ernie. Good practice.
Any other comments on 31 Mill Road?
I have no comments.
I have none.
No comments.
We have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 31 Mill Road.
You have a second?
I'll second it. Stan.
And then all in favor, say aye. I'll start with Mark.
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. All right, we're on the Kelper Farm. I'll turn it over to you, Brad.
All right, thanks, Ernie. So it's the Kelper Farm, Nantucket Sound address. It's a request to amend order conditions SE 32-2346 with the addition of base scallops to sugar kelp line.
Just a quick aside for this one. After the meeting, I had a meeting with the harbor. I reviewed the water dependent structures bylaw and found that navigation only pertains to us when it deals with a fixed structure, such as a dock, pier, whatnot. Navigation is really not our purview for dealing with something like fisheries in the water. So like we don't grant permits for the fish weirs, we don't, things like that. So something that's anchored by a mooring, according to the water dependent structures bylaw, that is not under our purview. So it is under our purview in that it is in a wetland. It's within land under the ocean. It's going to be fixed to that land under the ocean. And of course, you know, everything that's in the ocean. So from an environmental perspective, it is absolutely definitely in our purview. And that's how it's written in your, in the special conditions here. A bug just flew in my eye. For anybody who caught that on camera, that's a good one. And the dog got excited about my flinching. But that being said, Mr. Kelleher will have to get a mooring permit to anchor the lines, which is that's how he intends to hold them, is with moorings. He would have to get them from the harbor master, and the harbor master really does have jurisdiction over that sort of, you know, that activity. So we do not have any navigational jurisdiction over this project. So.
Related, Amy, do you think they're going to approve it? Because there was some concerns before.
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, but we've got to process our order all the same. Now,
So
is this? Go ahead, John. Sorry.
I do have a question about special conditions, which I may be misremembering, but I thought that they were extending their season. The original order of conditions says they'll only be in the water between October and May. And I thought I remembered him saying that he was going to extend that.
I changed it in amended special condition number 1 in the water year round.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Missed that. No problem. Okay.
Any other comments on this?
No comments.
Amy, under the general conditions, you've got an expiration date of September 5th, 2021.
That's correct.
The original one, or
I
is
will
that?
make him, with an amendment does not change the lifespan of a permit. It is still the original lifespan. I will let Mr. Kelleher know he will need to ask for an extension.
Okay.
Right, well, I guess I'll go ahead and move that we approve the request to amend the order of conditions for Caliper Farms, Nantucket Sound.
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye. By roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. Motion carries 6-0. And next, we have an order of condition for 15 Doan Road, map 13, parcel E3-1. It's a request to amend the order of conditions SC 32-2388 with a change of a 12 by 20 foot deck to a 24 by 30 foot pervious patio. I don't have any comments on this one myself.
I have no comments.
I have a question though, on number 2, if the slope is deemed too steep, the patio size may need to be decreased. Do they have to come back to the commission to approve the new size?
We could probably do it as a change in plan. Now, that technically does have to come back to the commission, but it's not a hearing. It's more of a discussion topic.
Got
We
it.
would need a new plan that adequately shows what the new size is going to be, so we have a correct record.
I think that was the discussion at the hearing too, how it would go. Well, there's no further comments. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the amended order of conditions for 15 Doan Road.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye by roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Carolyn?
Aye.
Myself, Brad Chase, aye. So that motion carries 6-0. All right, so moving on to extension requests. And let's see, do we want to take these all at once, Amy, or what's the best way to handle this?
Yeah, we can take them all at once. They're same property or properties next to each other. If you want, I'll lead the discussion. I do see somebody from Crawford Land Management who's on the project is here if you have any questions, but if you want, I'll start.
Sure, please.
Okay, so the first, I guess I'll quickly breeze through them. Nancy Taylor Realty Trust, 17 Soundview, which is SE 322330. They would like a 3-year extension. Jane Ayub, 17 and 23 Soundview, SE 322331. They would like a 3-year extension. And again, Jane Ayub, 23 Soundview, SE 322332 would like a 3-year extension. So for the first one, Nancy Taylor, they have requested an extension for continued maintenance. Melissa had reached out to and received comment from Gretchen about status of the project. And I do see that the owner, Mr. Paul Ayub, is on as well if need be. So implementation was done in 2019, did not plant until 2020. Everything on the mitigation plan was planted with the exception of the huckleberry and the Pennsylvania sedge, which were growing until the fall and installed in late October. They said they perform maintenance and are controlling the invasives. They would like to have more time for the mitigation plans to establish. Also some shady areas that were a little more difficult, and the R order does call for 2 full seasons of survival for the plantings. So they've asked for, 3, an additional year to make sure things survive. Maybe I'll go through all of them, and then if you have questions, we can address it, because it's kind of, okay.
Yep.
Again, for the next one, it's for 17 and 23, it's to ensure the invasives are eradicated and the plantings are established. Really the same explanation. And then the last one for just 23, Soundview requested a 3-year extension as only the removal of the asphalt and the wooden patio has been completed, and the vegetation management portion of the project has not been started. I guess to that point, I would like to ask either Mr. Ayub or Crawford Land Management when that will be started.
Is the question when the asphalt will be removed? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear everything. I'm sorry.
No, so this is Mr. Ayub. It says, well, according to what we have, the asphalt and the wooden patio, the removal of the asphalt has occurred according to what we were told, and the wooden patio. So a question is when is the vegetation management portion of the project going to be started?
That would be in the coming year.
Coming year as in fall of this year?
I'm going to defer the rest of this to Jennifer, but I know it'll be in the next year. But Jen, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, hi. For the record, Jen Crawford. So what we submitted to you was accurate. Those portions where the asphalt removal and everything took place, the rest of the vegetation management work could begin in the fall, as well as through the winter, or basically in the fall or the winter is when would be the appropriate time to start that portion of the project for the vegetation management.
So I would recommend approval of all the extensions that they requested, but for the last one, which is 32-2332, which is what we're talking about, that you put in a letter that the vegetation management, it shall start in fall of 2021. 3 years has already gone by for the permit. Do you think that has adequate time to have started the vegetation management? And I think personally, we'd like to, my recommendation is we'd like to see it started.
Jen, that's fine with me if it's okay with you.
Yep. We're good on our end.
All right, thanks, everybody. I will ask for questions since we have 3 extensions here, and just see if anybody has any comments or questions. And I'll start with Ernie.
No questions.
All right, Mark?
No, I guess not. Thank you.
All right, Stan?
I'm all set.
All right, John?
I'm all set.
Carolyn?
No question.
And I'm good with Amy's recommendation. So let's see if somebody wants to put together a motion to include all 3, or if it was your preference, you could do them separately, but I think we can do all 3 together if you like. They're all the same request.
Perhaps in the motion, just note all 3 DEP numbers. That would just make it clear. Please.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the 3-year extension for SE 32-2330, SE 32-2331, and SE 32-2332. All property located at 17 and 23 Soundview.
All right, thanks, Ernie. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye by roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So motions carry on all three, 6-0. Thank you both. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you, Jen.
Okay, it's only 8:30. That's pretty amazing. So we do have one certificate of compliance, and it's for 194 John Joseph Road, map 72, parcel G1-2, SC32-1973. And this one seems pretty simple, Amy.
Yes, this is to close out a permit for work not done.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we approve the certificate of compliance for 194 John Joseph Road. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Ernie. All those in favor say aye by roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Carolyn?
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, I guess we're on to new business. And we have a bench request. You want to give us a little update on that, Amy?
Sure. So the request is from David Groh, who enjoys going to Thompson's Field, and he would like to donate a bench to be put at Thompson's Field to be placed on the upper field on the Chatham Road side. We have one bench there that's kind of in bad shape. We could either replace it or just add a new one to that. And he's already asked, where the highway department typically gets our benches, wants to go with the same design that we use kind of all over town. So technically the land is under your care and custody, and you would need to grant permission for it. So I would recommend that you let Mr. Groh donate a bench.
Okay, pretty straightforward. Any thoughts or questions? I'll just put it out there because it seems like one of those things that, be pretty hard to find any fault in this.
The only fault would be when we don't have this issue there are issues like when people want to donate benches at town beaches. We already have, there's so many that it's just, it can be overkill. It's not the case here at Thompson's Field. We have a bench on the Chatham Road side, right by the parking lot. We have a dilapidated one kind of on top of the hill that probably should just remove. We don't have that problem of a proliferation of benches.
Yeah, and we don't have any jurisdictional resource areas, right? At the field, yeah. So I can't get up on a soapbox about a no disturb zone.
Amy, the bench that's there that you said it's in bad condition, was that something that the town put in, or had that been, long term with these benches, if it's a donated one, is there any up?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It would be up for the town. I don't know the history of that bench. It's been there before I was there. It's kind of overlooking what we call the pit on the Chatham Road side. Up, you get to the top of the hill before the big field.
I guess what I'm thinking of is on these donated, whether it be this one or other ones, is there any condition that they be maintained over time, or it's just kind of a one-shot deal that they're donated and then it's up to the town?
Yeah, once it becomes our property, it kind of becomes our deal. So I'm going to take a look at that other one, see if we should just get rid of it. I don't, for here, I don't see an issue, but yes, it becomes a town upkeep issue. And I mean, if it was to get dilapidated and we didn't have funds to replace it, we would just get rid of it.
Any other thoughts on this? I'll make a motion otherwise that we approve the request to put a bench at Thompson's Field.
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Carolyn. So all those in favor say aye by roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Carolyn?
Aye.
Myself, Brad Chase, aye. So that's it, 6-0. We have a bench.
I will have you let you know a fun fact. Yesterday at Thompson's Field, Melissa and I witnessed a butterfly new to us. And its name is the question mark butterfly. It literally, I'll send you all a photo of it. It stayed quite still to take a lot of photos, but it was up at the pollinator garden, the drought tolerant garden on the Chatham Road side, on the maple leaf viburnum up there that's in flower right now. And it's just, I was speaking with the garden club too, and they're just seeing many more pollen, beetles, damselflies, dragonflies, butterflies, all types of critical pollinators. Now that is really establishing, really taking advantage of that area. So it was new to me. I had never seen that butterfly before. So there's also a butterfly, evidently, now that we know this, there's a question mark butterfly. There is a comma butterfly. Not making it up.
Wow. What's it look like?
Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Let me find it because I emailed it to myself. So give me 1 second.
And you did send it to the garden club, Amy.
I sent it to Nancy Hip, Minatiello, and Diane DeJaneiro, who are kind of my contacts.
They'll do it.
They'll take care of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw Nancy Hip there this morning because the town is also with our AmeriCorps member where at that entrance where the rock is, where it says the Sarah Woodland Wildflower Meadow dedicated to the children of Harwich. Well, that had become just an absolute invasive mess. So our AmeriCorps member this year coordinated with the highway department, stripped that and planted a bunch of wildflower seeds, and they're taking very well. So let me see, town pics, here we go. I'm getting there. All right, Amy, where did you put it? There it is. Hang on, I'll share my screen in a moment. There she is.
Good size, huh?
Yeah, 2 or 3 inches. So medium, like a medium, I would say, butterfly for us.
No big question marks.
Nice too.
What was that, John?
Just saying the viburnum is looking nice too. Those blocks.
Oh, if you haven't been down there lately to see their garden, please go. The indigo, the false indigo, that's one of my favorite plants that I recommend a lot to people for native plantings in bloom. It's really looking fantastic down there.
Where is it relative to the parking lot
It's at the Chatham Road parking lot. So if you pull in on Chatham Road, it's between the parking area and the road, all that little garden.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
And then for us, what we did, if you're parked at the parking lot, if you pull in, nose in, right in front of you is the AmeriCorps and the town's, what's going to be a wildflower field. Just a small one. What were you going to say?
I think I just wisecracked about I don't see a question mark on it.
That's because it's on the underside of the wing.
Oh, no kidding.
It's when you get a chance, look it up and look at the pictures of the underside of the wing. If this thing was on a tree, you would never see it. It's so well camouflaged. But anyway, I digress.
Nice.
We found that fun.
Yeah, nice picture.
It held still for me. Okay.
The new business.
Yep. So MACC, who we belong to, Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, sent out a notice about these remote meetings and the option to continue with them. I wanted to see if the commission had a strong feeling either way. If you felt strongly to continue, if you wanted to send anything to the governor. If you didn't, fine. Just to let you know, as it stands as of this evening, because I sent you all an email right before the meeting about this. I was made known that our next meeting was going to be in person. So we started getting all that ready. And then we were told at the end of the day today that we're not going to have any in-person public meetings until June 21st, which would mean our first public meeting would not be till July 7th. So next meeting will still be remote for us. That's my latest knowledge. If that changes, we will let you know. Why is my battery running low? Hang on.
I guess while the topic's out there, why don't we just hear from everybody on how you feel about that? Any thoughts, Ernie?
No, I think that's fine. In reading through the notice from the governor, there's quite a bit of mention in here. Well, not quite a bit, a couple of mentions in here about remote participation still being permitted. And also, I thought it was interesting that it also gives commissions time to hearing, it looks like, for a period of time through the end of the year or so, which I thought was interesting. If we ever got a full agenda between now and year end, it appears to me, just on a quick read of this, we could unilaterally just say, no, we're not going to take it this month, we're going to push it off for another couple of weeks or something like that, which I thought was something we might want to keep in the back of our mind if we get some pretty heavy schedules coming up. Those are the only two things I saw that I thought were interesting in it. But I'm fine going back in person other than that.
Yeah. Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the online meetings. Actually, I think it's very convenient. I think it gives people an opportunity to participate from remote locations. I think it's a very modern thing to do, and I think it's very beneficial. Personally, I find it very comfortable. It accommodates my schedule much better, but that's only me. So if we did that continually, I would not be opposed.
Yeah. Stan?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mark that it's convenient in some ways, but at the same time, some of the topics that we go over are pretty difficult. I think it'd be easier in person. But personally, I don't have any problem going back on regular meetings, live meetings.
All right, John.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem going back on live meetings, but I'm with Mark about the convenience of this, and I don't honestly. I haven't found it troublesome at all discussing these things online the way we do. That doesn't bother me at all. I think, after over a year now, the people who are presenting, it's really on them to be able to make clear presentations. And aside from, a few glitches, somebody's computer, for whatever reason, doesn't do echo canceling, or somebody else has a really bad microphone and it drives you nuts. Those things are kind of annoying, but really, I think the convenience of these arrangements sort of trumps all of that. And I think it would be a shame if we're forced to go back to fully in person. I don't think it's a great idea, actually. I would like to see the town discussing the possibility of having hybrid meetings at least. But I don't know whether that's in the cards in any way.
Just so you know, that is being discussed. There have been some issues, from what I understand, and I'll touch base with Jamie and Channel 18. There's been some issues with these kind of hybrid meetings with having some people in place and some people remote, just with our systems. I do know that is being discussed.
So, it sounds to me, and I haven't read the governor's announcement, so I don't know exactly what's in there, but it sounds to me that some of this is at the discretion of the local government. Do you agree that that's the case? So
Correct.
It's really, so writing letters to the governor doesn't necessarily solve anything, unless
it would be more so the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
So from what I don't know if the conservation, well, first of all, I think in terms of for people who are recording and, broadcasting this, it makes it much easier if either people, stay remote or if we go live again, essentially. So I do anticipate the town, from what I understand based on what was sent me today, it is that starting June 21st, starting with the Board of Selectmen on June 21st, all boards will be back in town hall. So if there's an issue, we can definitely make that, or not an issue necessarily, but if you have comments to the contrary, we can certainly put together a letter to send to the selectmen.
Yeah, the selectmen have been in town hall though all the way through the winter, right?
I don't think all the way through the winter, mostly the spring.
The spring. The meetings I've seen, they've been in person.
But they're hybrid, right? They have people attending remotely as well.
They do, yes. So I can try to flesh that out a little bit better for you.
In retrospect, thinking back to some of the meetings, some of the discussions that we've had remotely, notably C Street Extension, I think, it's been very helpful to have it done on a remote basis where you can see all the participants. They can respond relatively quickly to comments that are made by a prior presenter, as opposed to having to stand up, go to the podium, state their name and all that sort of thing again, and then go sit down and the next person gets it. It does lend itself, I think, to a more fluid meeting and better comments from the audience in many cases too.
I find this whole discussion interesting because I remember back, March, April of last year, and we all, we were the first committee really in town to do this. I think we were even before the Board of Selectmen. We were only the second committee on the entire Cape to do this. And I remember, the thought was then is maybe the review is not as good. You don't get the personal touch. There was glitches and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to see everything come kind of full circle and really see some benefits to the way we're doing things right now.
Yeah. I mean, when you get into being able to share screens and all that sort of a thing too, I think it's been very helpful.
I think it's been helpful to me, at least, to have the hard copies as well as the Dropbox copies. I think that has made a difference for me.
Yeah, that's no issue with us. We can continue, regardless, we can continue doing things that way, if that's how the commission likes it. I find it helpful to have plans in front of me too, like physical plans, even though I might have it on the screen as well.
So
how do you like the remote, Carolyn?
Well, I'm not going to be here next year, so I shouldn't have a vote in this. But I think as it would be okay in a hybrid situation to have one of the commissioners remote. I think it would be difficult in a hybrid situation to have an applicant remote. I think with everything remote, the applicants, the owners have an easier time to get on and explain, and they don't have to travel down to the Cape to be at our meetings. I like that aspect of it very much. So I would probably, if I had a vote and had to choose between in-person and remote, I would choose remote for the accessibility to everybody.
Yeah, but we're not going to get a vote, right, Amy? It's going to be decided at the town level.
It is, but it doesn't mean that you can't send a comment letter. Just, and I'd be happy if you wanted to do something like that. I'd be happy to draft something and send it around because you've all made good comments tonight. Send a letter to the Board of Selectmen, just stating what you see as pros and cons, and saying, just that's up to you.
Yeah.
Each town committee's dynamics are totally different. This format might work the best for us, not necessarily for the historical commission or somebody else.
Yeah.
And we can phrase it that way for the Conservation Commission. Just so you know, we did have two consultants who we frequently see write letters to me that I forwarded to the selectmen. Before I didn't even ask for any comments. I think they got wind of all this happening, and they actually sent letters in saying that they prefer remote and reasons why.
Of course they would.
Yeah, there's a real cost savings, and I can see that myself. I don't enjoy it more than in person at all. It's just a personal preference. I think engagement declines a little bit, camaraderie declines a little bit. So I don't enjoy it, but I also think that there's some real cost savings that it's not going to go away. I think in some forums it's going to be the way to go. Just, like Carolyn said and Mark said about people not having to travel down here. That's huge. So, but, I've always enjoyed having discussions in person with everybody on the board as well as applicants. And this isn't as enjoyable. When we go 4.5 hours on a Zoom call, that's tough to me.
Yes, that's hard. I think it's been easier, and we're coming from a different point of view, in the fact that we all knew each other before we had to go remote.
Mm-hmm.
You've got brand new members coming in and everything is remote. And, you've never or barely met other members in person. I think that would be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do agree this would be hard. I mean, not just hard to, most people are familiar with some sort of online meetings at this point, but grasping onto the conservation bylaws from the state and locally with, being remote is might be a little bit of a challenge.
And dealing with basically strangers as fellow commissioners.
And now, looking down the table and making eye contact with Stan and trying to influence what he's going to do. I mean, that's over. We can't do that online.
But
it's a preference.
Would Amy
do the hairy eyeball?
What I was going to
You
say
could send me, hey, Brad, you could send me messages though through chat.
I got to get with it. Yeah. Sorry, Ernie.
I'm sorry. What I was asking was if someone like Amy Questle would have been able to join our meeting tonight if it was not remote.
Let me talk to our Channel 18 people. Let me get a better feel for how selectmen do it. What are the pros and cons? Could we do something in that fashion? From what I understand, it is going to be not remote at all, other than, if we're in the Griffin room, it would be either live streamed or recorded, but we also, the part of the issue too is that, you know, we're really low staffed in that department. So having to do remote meetings and potentially in-person meetings, like there's only 2 people there who do all of that. So I think it's either going to be all or nothing, but let me vet it a little bit quick, more for you.
I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I was asking questions about the information in the governor's notice about remote participation by commission members and also deferring agenda items until through year end. We have the ability to defer agenda items if it gets heavy.
Yeah, I did see that, and I did hear you say that. We actually that's an interesting point because we had that option at the beginning, actually through fairly recently. From the beginning of COVID until this end of the state of emergency. Well, no, it wasn't the end of the state of emergency. From the beginning of COVID until maybe late last summer or early fall, commissions were not required to open hearings on topics. I pushed you to because I didn't want to see a huge backlog. Imagine if we deferred. A lot of other boards did and got slammed. We already got slammed. We didn't need to be anymore. So we had that option then. Then they stopped it. So it's interesting that they're bringing that back now.
Yeah. So.
It is an option. I would say my recommendation, we never know what we just got 8 new filings for the next meeting. That's new ones, not ones. There's 1 or 2 that continued. So it's nice to have the option, but I hate to have us weigh on it too much of deferring. So.
But can you look into that option with remote participation too?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
It's like a whole new world going into COVID, and it's a whole new world coming out of COVID. Okay, well, that is what I've got for you. While I have you all, Ernie, you had noted you're not going to be here at the next meeting. Does anybody else know? It will be the last meeting for Carolyn and Jim. Is everybody else other than Ernie going to be available next time? I'll ask Jim. So.
As far as I know.
I'll be there. I just had a call in, Amy. For some reason my computer just died. So I just called in.
Okay,
but,
no problem.
I should be there.
Great. Well, that is what I've got for you folks.
Good. All right. Thanks, Amy. Good to have one that doesn't go too late. It's nice. Anything else on the new business, folks? Nope. All right. Well, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. Seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye. By roll call, Ernie.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye, it's 9:00, 9:01. This might be the earliest meeting I've ever attended.
We don't beat 9 o'clock very often. That
move forward. Will you stay on the board?
Well, I'm all set. All right. Well, I myself, so motion carries 6-0, and all right, we'll see everybody on the 16th.
Thank you.
I will set up that meeting with Mr. Stevens for next week. I'll send an email in the morning. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we'll see you on the site. Oh boy, that'll be fun. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
This conference is no longer being recorded.